Welcome back to Crawford-Clark Close-Up and part 2 of our Harry Potter series retrospective, covering our thoughts on the last 4 films in the series, all helmed by British filmmaker David Yates, Harry Potter and the Order of the Phoenix, up to Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows Part 2. We begin where we left off, as Harry, having survived his ordeal with Voldemort at the end of Goblet of Fire and accepted Dumbledore's more mellow apology that he's put Harry in terrible danger in his 4th year, is back again with the Dursleys for the summer holidays, having had no contact from anyone from the magical world. After Dudley's taunts about Harry's parents and Harry's nightmares, dark clouds roll over as Dementors arrive in Surrey, ready to strike against Harry and a terrified Dudley. Harry performs magic and finds himself facing expulsion from Hogwarts, care of the Ministry of Magic. Rescued from the Dursleys by a band of wizards and witches, including the real Alistair Moody and Natalia Tenner's quirky new cast edition Tonks, they all head for central London and 12 Grimmauld Place, where Harry is swiftly reunited with Sirius Black. We're quick to learn, alongside Harry, that this is the headquarters used for the Order of the Phoenix, a secret society that was originally set up when Voldemort last rose to power, headed by Professor Dumbledore. It's lovely to see more British thesps from the series getting meatier roles this time around, having been absent or having minimal roles in the preceding film. From Dame Julie Walters' motherly Mrs. Weasley, to a return to David Thewlis's weather-beaten Remus Lupin, and Gary Oldman's protective Sirius Black. The character dynamic works well here, with new director David Yates focusing primarily on this, with background action and big set pieces minimal in this instalment. That's not to say we don't have some extraordinary new sets. Harry and the audience's first look at the mighty Ministry of Magic set is a sight to behold, and one of the most impressive and expansive sets made at Leavesden Studios for the film up to this point. But where this film excels is in its softer, character-driven moments. Having shown his growing infatuation for Ravenclaw student Cho Chang in Goblet of Fire, Harry finally gets his first screen kiss with Katie Leung's beautiful Cho, and it's a tender moment adapted well from Rowling's novel. Also, any time that Radcliffe and Oldman share the screen together is electric, the two actors working brilliantly together. You completely buy the relationship between the two, which makes the finale all the more devastating. Imelda Staunton is clearly Film 5's standout new addition, playing the perfectly evil Dolores Umbridge, who moves into Hogwarts School to take over, as per the Minister of Magic's orders, meaning Dumbledore must step down. Talking of Dumbledore, there are some improved character moments here in this instalment, but Michael Gambon, having never read Rowling's novels, therefore not knowing exactly what tone to portray the character with, struggles here with the material and repeats his mistake from Goblet of Fire of being both extremely angry and reticent towards Harry, as Harry is struggling with his connection to the Dark Lord and seeing visions of Voldemort's plans, and is begging for support. This is the most sombre film in the series to date, and it's based on Rowling's largest novel in the series, at over 750 pages. Previous series screenwriter Steve Kloves decided to take a break from his duties on the series for this instalment, and Michael Goldenberg stepped up to the plate and actually does an admirable job of capturing all the main detail of the book and chastising any filler from the novel. Order of the Phoenix is a doorstop of a text, with even the most ardent of defenders of the novel surely conceding to the fact that there is some material within its pages that's extraneous to the main narrative. There's a lot of angst and politics at play this time around, and ultimately it makes this a less entertaining story than the last 2 in the series, and sadly that's reflected in the overall product. Once again, the screenwriter has somehow managed to take the longest novel in the series and truncated the material down to a film only marginally exceeding 2 hours. It's an impressive feat, but clearly means that there are fans out there wondering why we don't get to see Mrs. Weasley's boggart, Ron and Hermione becoming prefects, and even Neville's parents in St. Mungo's Hospital in a great little sequence from the book. For this and the next instalment in the series, director Yates brings on board Nicholas Hooper to score the film, and it's a rich tapestry here, juxtaposing the darkness of Voldemort against the sugary sweet yet demonic theme for Umbridge. New student Luna Lovegood also gets her own theme, as she becomes a wonderful ally for Potter, as he slowly starts to alienate Ron and Hermione amid his anger and frustration. Hormones are definitely working overtime once again this time around. One of the series' best new cast additions this time around, though, is surely Helena Bonham Carter as the deliciously unhinged Bellatrix Lestrange, who we learn is Sirius Black's cousin. She plays the character with relish, breaking out of Azkaban and joining in the battle at the Ministry before slinking off like a cat when Dumbledore arrives to impart order. Order of the Phoenix is an engaging film that maintains a solid pace throughout and demonstrates some of the best acting from the main trio so far, particularly Radcliffe's Potter stepping up to the plate to teach students how to defend themselves against the looming threat of Voldemort and dark forces under Umbridge's watchful eye, and Harry's possession by Voldemort in the Ministry battle at the film's end showcases some of Radcliffe's best work so far in the series. Seeing Dumbledore return after an absence in the second act to fight Voldemort in the Ministry in the finale is a crowd-pleasing moment, showcasing terrific effects and impressive action. It's a film this reviewer wouldn't rush to when deciding to watch a Harry Potter film, as there's less going on this time around than in the previous adventures, but it's still a fine adaptation of a beast of a novel, mostly ticking all the right boxes. From Crawford-Clark Close-Up. Following the angst of Order of the Phoenix, David Yates decided he was going to take on the 6th instalment in the series, Harry Potter and the Half-Blood Prince, a certainly lighter tome than Book 5, both in size and content. Following the death of a deeply significant figure in Harry's life, and with the knowledge that Voldemort is back, Half-Blood Prince starts with Death Eaters wreaking havoc in the Muggle world, attacking the Millennium Bridge and also Diagon Alley itself, before Dumbledore escorts a wandering, aimless Harry from a train station cafe to the village of Budley Babberton, where it's imperative that Dumbledore recruit Professor Slughorn back to teach this year at Hogwarts School. Horace Slughorn is our first new character in the film, and he's played brilliantly by the mighty Jim Broadbent, bringing all the mannerisms of Rowling's character to the screen superbly. From here we move swiftly to the Burrow, where Harry is left by Dumbledore and is back in the comfort of his friends Ron and Hermione, and the slightly awkward pangs of a relationship are developing between Ron and Hermione, as well as Harry and Ron's younger sister Ginny. The thing that this film is criticised for, both by fans of the novels as well as casual moviegoers, is that there's too much emphasis on romance between our characters and comedy this time around. But frankly, we needed it after the thoroughly depressing, washed-out feel of Order of the Phoenix, and it's a little calm before the storm that will develop in the last chapter of Rowling's saga. That's also not to say that the film is devoid of tension and darkness that have been present in the series since the 3rd instalment, Prisoner of Azkaban. This film marks a loss of innocence for Harry in particular, and a dawning realisation of the expectation on his shoulders of where his journey will take him as he departs Hogwarts to hunt down Voldemort's Horcruxes, parts of his soul that he's hidden in objects to make him immortal. Speaking of J.K. Rowling, where before now she had less of a role in the goings-on at Warner Brothers, despite visiting the sets of the films and sharing many thoughts with the producers and screenwriters, when Half-Blood Prince went into production in 2007, it marked the end of publication of Rowling's final Potter novel, The Deathly Hallows. So Rowling was available to work a little closer with the film's crew to ensure that they were still on the right page as the filmmakers headed ever closer to the end of Harry's and Rowling's mammoth story. What's fantastic about Half-Blood Prince is that following his break in screenwriting duties on the 5th film, Steve Kloves returns and seems more determined than ever to get character interactions and dialogue lifted straight from Rowling's pages into the script, and it's lovely to see, even down to small declarations from Professor Dumbledore on picking up a woman's magazine that he does love knitting patterns. It's subtle for the most part, but there's more character development on show in this instalment, and it's all the better for it. The pacing is exceptional in Half-Blood Prince. It's moody, it's light, it has some of the best work from the main trio, and the acting as a whole is fantastic. There's little in the way of new characters this time around, but the development in place with existing characters, particularly Harry trying to wheedle information out of Professor Slughorn that's vital for Dumbledore, is executed very well on screen. It's Nicholas Hooper's far improved score for Half-Blood Prince, with works of art like In Noctem, Journey to the Cave, and the farewell of Harry's most significant connection to the wizarding world, that elevate this score to the best all-rounder in the series so far. It's evocative, it's emotional, and it's a stunning piece of work, making you wonder what Hooper would have created for the Deathly Hallows were he to stay on in the series. Bruno Del Bonnell's rightly Oscar-nominated cinematography makes this one of the most beautiful films to look at in the series, alongside Prisoner of Azkaban. The contrast between light and dark and the landscape of Hogwarts and its many turrets, with silhouetted characters in contemplation, is breathtaking. The standout scene from Half-Blood Prince is the simultaneously epic and sombre finale to the film, with Harry and Dumbledore's perilous journey to the cave to locate one of Voldemort's Horcruxes before returning to Hogwarts to devastation. With any of the films in the series from Goblet of Fire onwards, there will be book purists who vent their frustrations that not every single detail from Rowling's rich tapestry is included on screen. But to say that Half-Blood Prince is a mess of an adaptation is pure ignorance. The book has been carefully condensed down to a 2.5-hour masterwork, with all the essential elements in place. Yes, it would have been perfect to see more of Voldemort's memories in the Pensieve, to get more gravity in preparation for the final instalments in the series, but the tone of this film is the best balanced of all 6 to date. Let's be thankful that, finally, Michael Gambon's portrayal of Dumbledore is close to perfect in this instalment. I personally remember coming out of a packed cinema having seen Harry's 6th story, salivating for more, and that's all any fan can hope for. Half-Blood Prince is... After his impressive work on the vastly different politically charged Order of the Phoenix and Calm Before the Storm Half-Blood Prince, director David Yates made the difficult decision to return to direct the adaptation of Rowling's final Potter novel, The Deathly Hallows. The first decision to be made was to split the mighty final instalment into 2 parts. Where there were moments in the last 3 novels that could be trimmed for the film's screenplay, everything written by Rowling in the final novel has a vital impact to the story. Therefore, audiences were treated to Part 1 of The Deathly Hallows in November 2010, and would have to wait only 7 months after this for the final film, Deathly Hallows Part 2, in July 2011. These are dark times, there is no denying, bellows new Minister for Magic Rufus Scrimgeour in Bill Nighy's briefest of cameos in the series, in an empowered speech as Part 1 to the final story opens, and we get to see Harry seeing off the Dursleys as they depart from Privet Drive, realising it's not safe for them to live there any longer. Ron is contemplating the journey ahead of him outside the Burrow, and Hermione has to erase her parents' memories of their daughter in order to keep them safe. It's a sombre opening to a Harry Potter film after so many action-packed openings, and immediately demonstrates a sense of unease and foreboding of danger to come. From here we have an almost verbatim from the novel meeting held by Voldemort at Malfoy Manor, one of many new sets for the final story, to discuss the termination of Potter as soon as he comes of age. Also present, hanging above the table, is Hogwarts Muggle Studies teacher Charity Burbage, who will quickly become snake food in a chilling post-title sequence. Alan Rickman once again steals the show, barely muttering a single word, playing his nonchalant part as Snape at the top end of the table next to Voldemort. After quite a start, we get one of the most impressive CGI sequences in the series, as members of the Order and Harry's closest companions take Polyjuice Potion to all become him to throw Voldemort off the scent so they can all depart from Privet Drive and make their safe journey to the Burrow. Radcliffe plays the different characters' mannerisms superbly in this sequence, from Ron's awkward way of putting on clothes to Hermione's impatience at waiting for everyone to finish getting ready. It's a wonderful sequence that's a precursor to an impressive aerial battle. It's the Order versus Voldemort and his Death Eaters, trying to get to the real Harry whatever the cost. All but a couple of the Order manage to make it to the Burrow unscathed, but we have our first casualty early on, as a seemingly strong character falls at this first hurdle. Back at the Burrow, amid preparations getting underway for Ron's elder brother Bill and returning character Fleur Delacour's wedding, Harry and Ginny share a kiss in a humorous moment before the Minister of Magic leaves objects from Dumbledore's will to Harry, Ron and Hermione, further emphasising that their dangerous journey is imminent. Death Eaters spoil the fun at the wedding, causing Harry, Ron and Hermione to disapparate to central London, where they go into hiding at Grimmauld Place and begin their search for the Horcruxes. The idea of moving the action out of Hogwarts and into the Muggle world is different and works well on screen, as it must have been arduous trying to condense Rowling's many pages of camping and growing anger and frustration between the trio from the first half of J.K. Rowling's novel into something coherent and engrossing on screen. But screenwriter Steve Kloves does a great job once again. Rupert Grint, in particular, shows his acting chops off in this film. Having played the lovable clown in Half-Blood Prince, here Ron is overcome with jealousy as he sees Harry and Hermione getting closer and leaving him out of important discussions while they're hunting Horcruxes, and a fight breaks out between Harry and Ron, causing Ron to disband from the trio, much to the pain of a clearly distraught Hermione. There are plenty of great set pieces in amongst the angst in this film. We return to the Ministry of Magic as Harry, Ron and Hermione, disguised as ministry workers, infiltrate the ministry to hunt down the locket Horcrux that is now in the possession of Dolores Umbridge, before having to disapparate to the forest to continue their journey as it's too dangerous to return to Grimmauld Place. Let's talk about the score for the series' 7th film. Having just worked on the Oscar-winning The King's Speech in 2010, director David Yates brought on Oscar-winning composer Alexandre Desplat for the final 2 stories in the saga, and Desplat's score is haunting and reminiscent in equal measure, weaving together beautiful themes for action set pieces, as well as some standout themes from the series, including Ron's speech and Godric's Hollow Graveyard, which adds greater emotion to the scene in which Harry and Hermione decide to visit Harry's birthplace to find the Sword of Gryffindor, which will enable them to destroy Horcruxes. Whilst there, Harry is overcome with sorrow upon finding the ruin of his family home destroyed by Voldemort when he was a baby, as well as weeping at his parents' gravestones. It's a touching moment that's made more powerful by Desplat's beautiful melodies. Desplat also returned to score Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows Part 2 and gives some of his greatest work to date in the 2nd film. From the emotional and frightening confrontation at Godric's Hollow, it's down to a returning Ron to destroy the locket Horcrux with the Sword of Gryffindor before the trio head to Rhys Ifans' Xenophilius Lovegood's home, as they want to ask him about the Deathly Hallows symbol that he was wearing at the wedding. The result is one of the most beautifully animated sequences in a motion picture in recent memory, as Hermione narrates the tale of the 3 brothers, detailing the Elder Wand, the Resurrection Stone, and the Invisibility Cloak, Deathly Hallows, which, if you possess all 3, will make you the Master of Death. Quickly coming to the conclusion that Voldemort is trying to possess each object, the trio have to flee Lovegood's home before running into Snatchers, who escort them to Malfoy Manor. It's wonderful to see a number of smaller returning characters from earlier in the series for these final chapters in the saga. John Hurt's Ollivander and Warwick Davis's duplicitous goblin Griphook being good examples, but the best new addition is Dobby, once again voiced by the talented Toby Jones. The CGI is improved since the last time we saw the character in Chamber of Secrets, and the house elf has a big part to play in the finale of Part 1, and is part of one of the saddest sections of the entire Harry Potter series. The biggest complaint fans of the series and casual filmgoers have for Deathly Hallows Part 1 is that the film doesn't have a defined conclusion, so therefore no clear 3-act structure. But this, of course, is the first part of the epic finale, so it wouldn't have a clear conclusion. The sombre and tense ending we do have is the most perfect split point from the Deathly Hallows novel that the filmmakers could have chosen. We have the crushing death of another integral character before the promise of more danger as Voldemort breaks into Dumbledore's tomb and takes possession of the Elder Wand. Deathly Hallows Part 1 succeeds in what it sets out to do. Where Half-Blood Prince was essentially part 1 of a 3-part finale, with Harry and co understanding what they need to do to protect the wizarding world, this film is a manifestation of this, with growing peril along the way, before the final battle in Part 2. This is an emotional, stark entry in the series that allows audiences to anticipate what's to come. From Crawford-Clark Close-Up, "It all ends here," promised the trailers for the final instalment in the Harry Potter saga, and to say it was probably the most anticipated film release of all time, besides the release of the first film a decade earlier, is a gross understatement. The 8th film in the series recaps the very end of Part 1 before launching straight into the story, and it's one of the most fast-paced films in the series, coming in at just 2 hours. Rescued from Malfoy Manor and having survived her ordeal against Bellatrix Lestrange, Hermione, Ron and Harry learn that there's another Horcrux in Bellatrix's vault in the Wizarding Bank, Gringotts. It's lucky, therefore, that they have Griphook the Goblin to help them break into Gringotts and into the vault. Rescuing a tethered dragon from the vault, and with the Horcrux in their possession, the trio escape on said dragon, and Harry looks inside Voldemort's mind to see a terrified antagonist, beginning to realise that Harry is aware of his secret, and that he is indeed hunting his Horcruxes. Professor Snape is now headmaster of Hogwarts School, and the school is a shadow of what it once was. Run by Death Eaters, this is an establishment of order and discipline, and it's up to Harry, Ron and Hermione to break into Hogwarts undetected to continue their search for the Horcruxes. The problem is, Voldemort is heading for Hogwarts with remaining Death Eaters, and despite Hogwarts' impressive protective spells and enchantments, and a fist-pumping moment in the spotlight for Dame Maggie Smith's Professor McGonagall, the Death Eaters find their way into Hogwarts and the battle begins. Where the last 3 films in the series from director David Yates all balance their fair share of action and characterisation, Deathly Hallows Part 2 is a beast all its own, and it stands alone. Every moment in this final film is a showstopper, from the fiend fire sequence in the Room of Requirements to the crowd-pleasing kiss finally shared by Ron and Hermione in the Chamber of Secrets, having destroyed another of the Horcruxes. The single most perfect chapter in Rowling stories has to be the revelation about Professor Snape, and for ardent fans of the novels like this reviewer, we wanted to see Snape's memories done justice on screen, and this scene alone is one of the very best in the whole series. Learning what we do about this character, about whom we've never truly understood his true intentions, is fantastic to see and stunningly edited, with Alan Rickman giving some of his finest work in his career in this film. From this moment until the very end of the film, encompassing Harry accepting his fate and using the Resurrection Stone to see his parents and others he's lost in his final moments, this is perfect storytelling. The final battle between Harry and Voldemort is an audacious change to the way Rowling's novel concludes, but it's purely cinematic and is perfectly cathartic. What is most extraordinary with hindsight is how grounded Radcliffe, Grint and Watson have become since the first film. Baby-faced and wide-eyed at the start of the story, Columbus managed to use transfiguration skills that even Professor McGonagall would be impressed by to transform these 3 basically unknown children into adored movie stars, and Deathly Hallows Part 2 is a magnificent finale that encapsulates everything audiences and adoring fans have come to love about the adventures of Harry Potter. From Chris Columbus to Alfonso Cuarón, from Mike Newell to David Yates, these 4 directors have shared a singular vision: to remain faithful to Rowling's magical stories and give audiences a cinematic vision that's both unique and spellbinding. God bless you, J.K. Rowling, for Harry Potter. Deathly Hallows Part 2 is, of course, So, those are our thoughts on all 8 Harry Potter films. What are your thoughts on the final 4 films in the series? Let us know what you think in the comments below, and if you like this review, please subscribe to Crawford-Clark Close-Up for more. You can find us on Facebook and Twitter, and you can email us your thoughts and suggestions for future videos to crawfordclarkcloseup@gmail.com. Coming up, we'll be reviewing both Fantastic Beasts films to date, Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them, as well as new release Fantastic Beasts: The Crimes of Grindelwald, before we rank all 10 films in the magical series to date and count down our favourite magical moments. There's still plenty more to come this month on Crawford-Clark Close-Up. Until next time, thanks for watching, and that's a wrap.